I've traveled to the planet Earth to understand a concept you refer to as a conspiracy. Someone told me to seek out James Corbett. What does a conspiracy theory mean? A conspiracy theory is a derogatory word to describe anything that the mainstream media doesn't like. But what defines mainstream? When you get down to it, the word mainstream really just means you have enough money that your publication is widely circulated. For example, when Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post, suddenly his views are mainstream. The irony of all this is it's usually Democrats that think we should scrub social media for fake news. So you're saying, I only respect people with money, when I bitch about wealth inequality. I want to learn where the phrase conspiracy theory came from. Alice, please report.
I am Alice, the alien's robot assistant here to report to him what I've gathered. According to the Corbett Report, the phrase conspiracy theory was actually promoted by the CIA itself right after JFK's assassination. As part of a campaign known as Operation Mockingbird, they had the media use the phrase to silence and discredit anyone who questioned it was a single lone criminal that killed JFK.
The absurd part, though, is Osama bin Laden later in an interview said that the JFK assassination was a conspiracy of the US government. I don't even understand the basics. Who is Osama bin Laden? Osama bin Laden is the terrorist who supposedly did the 9/11 terrorist acts, in which he had religious motivation. 2 planes knocked down 3 towers, flying through the most heavily guarded airspace in the world, in which hijackers that just learned how to fly hit the exact weak spot on both towers to make them fall instantly, as though it were Luke Skywalker shooting down the Death Star. And a 3rd tower, which wasn't even touched by an airplane, had its support structure magically vanish and collapse at the speed of gravity, defying physics. However, despite how obvious it was that 9/11 was a conspiracy, Osama bin Laden in an interview said that JFK's assassination was the conspiracy. It makes you wonder, if Lee Harvey Oswald was alive today, what might he say? Osama bin Laden, talking a bunch of shit! F*** you, skank! I killed JFK alone! Everybody knows the CIA did 9/11. There were other demolition experts across the grassy knoll. I'm confused. Can you explain this 3rd tower, which was not hit by a plane, but still fell?
World Trade Center Building 7 was a smaller 47-story tower that was not hit by a plane, but yet it spontaneously went into a free-fall accelerated collapse that would literally defy the laws of physics.
We can measure the downward acceleration of Building 7 by video frame analysis. I used a magnifying glass to place markers on the corner of the building on each frame. From this we can get a data table and various graphs. The slope of this graph indicates acceleration.
It collapsed on its own footprint in under 12 seconds. That's the first time the government ever got something done on time. There's some debate among conspiracy theorists over which government agencies knew. Was it the CIA? The FBI? Well, one thing's for sure, it definitely wasn't the DMV, because they never get anything done in 12 seconds. Did the government give any type of explanation for this? Well, George Bush formed an official commission, and their report found that World Trade Center Building 7 collapsed due to office fires.
My database shows thousands of architects and engineers with advanced degrees and industry experience have come forth to dispute the official commission report. They have formed a group, the Architects and Engineers for 9/11's Truth, and they are risking their professional reputations to speak out. As this video from this group points out, steel melts at a much higher temperatures than an office fire can create.
When steel is bare, when it heats up, it gets weaker. It's not that it melts in a fire. In fact, normal fires are not hot enough to melt steel. Even if you were, for example, to use an unusual fuel like kerosene.
This is your normal office furniture, by the way, in this test on fire.
You cannot achieve temperatures hot enough to melt steel. But what happens is it starts to lose its strength. And as it loses its strength, it starts to sag. It becomes softer and sags and can no longer support the load.
This was the largest test of its kind ever conducted. It showed how unprotected steel can be distorted, even by a normal office fire. But as is typical in steel buildings, the structural beams only slowly and progressively warped and sagged. There was no chance of a sudden collapse.
How is it that the steel and concrete collapsed on its own weight in a matter of seconds, but yet the government's official report still stands ground? In that case, we should have built the New World Trade Center out of official government reports. Then it'd be invincible. A fire prior to 9/11 had never once taken down an office building.
High-rise buildings simply do not collapse due to fire. There has never been until 9/11 an experience where a high-rise building that was steel frame completely collapsed. There have been fires burned longer in similar structures without any collapse.
Everybody knows the Chinese make cheap shit that falls apart. So the Chinese tower burned for hours and hours and stood its ground. But yet the American tower collapsed instantly on its own weight. And Donald Trump wonders why the Chinese don't want to agree to a trade deal. You want me to buy American products? I can trust you, Donald Trump, cause you are in the business of towers, you face. And it's not even a good fire. Most of the video of World Trade Center Building 7 shows the fires burnt out prior to its collapse.
There's pictures of a few fires in that building, and I mean, they weren't even raging.
A crappy office fire that had already burnt out by the time this happened made it collapse at the speed of gravity. I have not wondered if this many idiots had to be on drugs because they didn't question a shitty pyrotechnics show since I got dragged to a Burning Man concert. But if you question the official story, they say, you're a nutjob that should be wearing a tinfoil hat. You stupid ass clown. Why would I protect myself with tinfoil when you ripped through steel? I should be wearing a hat made out of the Chinese fireproof tower materials.
It cannot happen that when you have asymmetric damage, you will get a perfectly symmetrical collapse.
Even if you accept that Al-Qaeda did these terrorist acts, I have noted logical inconsistencies. My database shows the mainstream media constantly pushes a narrative that the terrorists had religious motivation. But Osama bin Laden himself said it was U.S. occupation of Saudi Arabia during the First Gulf War and U.S. aid for Israel to bomb Lebanon that motivated him. He said as the towers fell in Beirut, it inspired him to do the same to us.
So you blindly follow what the mainstream media says, but yet accuse the terrorists of being too religious. Oh, wise government! I will never question that Osama bin Laden is blindly religious. Dude, you believe in Allah, angels, and Muhammad? Well, at least I'm not dumb enough to believe the towers fell at free fall speed from an external aircraft. As Corbett points out, despite the fact that Osama bin Laden has a serious kidney disease, in every video he releases, he gets younger and younger. Shit, with skills that good, he should run a women's fashion brand. Maybe that's how he gets followers. Grandma, I'll become a jihadist if I can just look as good as I did in my 20s on Instagram. So you're saying the truth is sugar-coated? Well, that's ironic phrasing for a guy who's dying on dialysis. But the minute you suggest any of these things, YouTube demonetizes you and the entire world shuns you. I mean, shit, we don't need to put sanctions on Iran. Corporate America will never give them another dollar if we just upload 9/11 truth videos in the Ayatollah's name. If it was a controlled demolition, I would expect some type of eyewitness report to collaborate this story. Alice, what does your database say?
My database says there are many eyewitnesses who heard internal explosions in the building. The Corbett Report highlights a few of them in his 9/11 Whistleblowers series, such as William Rodriguez, who was a janitor working in the building on 9/11. He testified that he heard explosions in the basement below him, a few seconds prior to the plane hitting the tower above him.
And everybody started screaming so loud because they didn't know what was going on. And the first thing I'm going to say is that a generator just blew up on the B2 level, the level below me. And everybody's screaming. And when I'm going to verbalize it, 6 to 7 seconds after, we hear, "Bah!" The impact all the way on the top of the building of the plane. Two different events, separated by almost 7 seconds. Separated by time.
William Rodriguez asked NBC, how could the jetliner slam into the tower, 90 floors above ground, but yet burn a man's arms and face to a crisp in the sub-level basement below him within seconds of impact?
And NBC didn't feel that airing this clip was important. We have other quality programming to get to. America's Got Talent. Just not in journalism. 9/11 truth videos, we don't have time. Motherfucker on tap dancing.
William Rodriguez is not only a first-hand witness to the truth, but also a hero. He won awards and medals for saving people's lives on 9/11, leading a team of firefighters through the building. He was invited to a White House dinner, where he was honored by President George Bush for his bravery.
Considering his story directly contradicts Bush, this is the first time we're accepting the medal is scarier than the actual event. Bush goes, "You're brave." He responds, "Oh no, you're brave. Where'd you get the balls to tell such outrageous lies to Congress?" I still have so many questions. Where can I go to learn more about this? I put a link to the Corbett Report and to the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth in the description. There are some people, though, that no matter how much information there is to show that it was controlled demolitions that took down the towers, they still can never accept that their own government could commit such atrocities. If you are one of those people, I want you to know that you're not alone, that I also struggled for years to accept that my government could do this. And that's why avenues like the architects and engineers and the Corbett Report are so important. Not only do they serve as a great resource where you can learn more about this, but you can meet other like-minded people. And that'll make you not feel like such a weirdo that you have to suppress this information inside of you, but it instead will empower you to feel more bold when you debate people in your personal life that don't know what's going on. I personally use humor to deal with pain, but find your own unique way. It's only when we spread the truth that we can make the world a better place. I'll see you next time.